the Sun. I mean, it makes a change for the Sun to actually have words on the front cover, but never have so few decided so much for so many. And earlier, I think it was this week, Trevor Kavanagh, who, I mean, I've been saying for many years that this guy is the most important political commentator in the country. He's Australian. But he is Murdoch's political man writing for the Sun. 13 million people a day read or at least skim on what this guy has to say in terms of political comment. And in this article, I think I have a copy over here if anybody wants to look at it, in this article he's basically saying, my God, you know, aren't the British people waking up to what's occurring? Now, I don't believe that he for 1 minute wants to stop, nor does his boss, Murdoch, want to stop it. What they're doing is they're just testing the water. And they're saying, you know, how far can we push these people? And there's no reaction, of course. The New World Order. What is the objectives of the New World Order? One world government, one world economy, one world religion, theirs, and the population of less than 1 billion people. And you think, well, that's ridiculous, that's not going to happen. But let me tell you, there are organisations, and they're becoming even more open about this goal to reduce the population. I just want to flag up this, because this is very significant. The Club of Rome is effectively an inner group within the, well, the Bilderbergers were a spin-off of the Club of Rome. But this is, the people who sit on this think tank are, you know, deep within the inner workings. And this particular report is the first ever mention that I can find of global warming. Now read this very carefully, because in searching for a new enemy to unite us, because this was written immediately after the fall of the Soviet Empire, so the Cold War was ostensibly over. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine and the like would fit the bill. All these dangers are caused by human intervention. And then this wonderful payoff line at the bottom, the real enemy then is humanity itself. You know, the whole idea of these guys, their agenda, these guys are very, very cute, they're very smart, take nothing away from them, they know their game, they're very good at it, they've had many years to practice. So what they do is they come up with stuff like this to keep us chasing our tail. You know, and basically keep us sort of focused. I mean, all this green stuff. Oh, by the way, the press said that I'm a green campaigner. I'm not a green campaigner. I'm a campaigner for truth and political integrity. No, I'm not a green in any way. I'm about choice and honesty. You know, and what these guys are making very clear is that they will come up with an agenda that keeps people locked into this vicious cycle, you know, and we can tax them for it. We can come up with all these green taxes. I mean, this stuff about peak oil, I mean, the DVD of the talk that I gave here a few weeks ago on peak oil will be available very shortly. But look at the evidence. Look at the backlog of aircraft. Look at what the oil companies are doing. Peak oil, at best, is 50, 100 years away. What I'm talking to you about tonight is 2.5 years away and less. This wonderful piece of work, Dr. Eric Pianka, professor of zoology at the University of Texas in Austin, and he made a speech less than 2 years ago, and he said, basically, the top scientist gave a speech, the Texas Academy of Science, in which he advocated the need, listen carefully, to exterminate 90% of the population through the airborne Ebola virus. Dr. Pianka's chilling comments and their enthusiastic reception again underscore the elite's agenda to enact horrifying measures of population control. And this guy got a standing ovation. And just in case anybody's in any doubt, this henge is called the Georgia Guidestones, and it manifested mysteriously in 1980. And on it, there's, I think, 12 objectives, and they're carved out in 12 languages. I'm not going to go through all the objectives, but you might be interested in a couple of them, because the top one says, maintain humanity under 500 million, in perpetual balance with nature. Under 500 million. Now, at least Pianka said 1 billion. I mean, these guys are going to 500, I mean, that's The US population is 300 million right now. So these guys are talking about whoever manifested these stones mysteriously 27 years ago is talking about 500 million people. And then the next one is guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Where did we last hear that? Oh, Mein Kampf. You know, we're talking the same agenda. The same agenda. The SS was known as the Brotherhood of Death. Skull and Bones is known as the Brotherhood of Death. And so are the Jesuits. On 9/11, Senator Gary Hart made a statement on TV. And in that statement he said, Americans will likely die on American soil, possibly in large numbers. Now, when I heard him make that speech, and it took me a couple of months before I actually sort of managed to find the video of it and look at it again, because it was a speech, I was watching it in Belize, so it was early in the morning for me when 9/11 was going down, but I remembered that speech. But I later traced it. He wasn't actually making that speech from any original point of view. He was actually quoting from another report written by another extreme right-wing group like the Project for a New American Century, and it was the Hart-Rudman US Commission on National Security, and they actually included this statement in their report. Americans will likely die, possibly in large numbers. Well, you know what? I reckon he was talking about the pharmaceutical industry. Because in the US alone, there are over 106,000 deaths every year, and catch this next bit, from properly prescribed medicines. Taken exactly as directed. From properly prescribed medicines. I mean, I tell you, this has opened up a whole new avenue of research for me. And there's one particular book that I came across. It's called Corporate Crime in the Pharmaceutical Industry. And when I tried to get my hands on it, you know what I was being told was that the pharmaceutical industry, this book was published in 1984, had basically tried to buy up every copy of this book. Well, I eventually managed to get this copy for the princely sum of 58 quid, would you believe? And it's an old library book. So I am extremely grateful for the guy who didn't, or lady who didn't return their library book. I mean, they made out like a bandit because I came along and bought it for 58 quid, questions later. But it's a wonderful book. Corporate Crime in the Pharmaceutical Industry. I mean, wonderful in a perverse sort of way because it gives insights. And you can see that these guys know that this kind of death rate is normal. But they're happy to live with it. And look at this. Another 150,000 people will die every year as a result of other medical blunders, making deaths caused by doctors one of the leading causes, some would say the leading cause of death in the USA. Well, of course, MRSA and the such, are also catching up with that. In the 10 years, it's estimated that 7.8 million people suffered death from properly prescribed and properly implemented medications. When the pharmaceutical industry does a test, right, it has to prove that there is a percentage of the people who are participating in that test who received some positive benefit from that particular medication. Any idea what the percentage of that they have to prove is? 35%? We wish. It's 5%. It's 5%. Coincidentally, by the way, that's exactly the percentage of the survival rate of anybody with cancer who undertakes chemo. You've actually got more chance. You've got more chance of survival by picking up a pistol with one bullet in the chamber and spinning the chamber. You've got a 1 in 6 chance of survival then. But with chemo, it's 5%, the same level as they have to prove the efficacy of the drugs. So Big Pharma, believe it or not, actually kills more people than the US military. Now, I know that's a tough one to believe, but they do. The Big Pharma, the pharmaceutical industry, and just to put this in perspective, in 2002, the top 10 pharmaceutical companies earned more in profits than the rest of the 490 companies in the Fortune 500 put together. And the reason I'm using 2002 is because that changed in 2003 with the oil industry deciding to get a piece of the action. But this is the magnitude of the profitability.